Well, good afternoon. This is Disability Rights and History. This is an online course that you will have all summer, or for the rest of the summer, I should say. It finishes on August 14th. We do not meet, but I will have these videos, one or two each week for you. As well as the readings, there'll be a weekly quiz, weekly discussion, and weekly journals. And you will be responsible for 3 papers. Basically, this class is looking at the history of the social perception of disabilities, pretty much from the ancient times forward. Our first 3 weeks are going to focus on pre-Victorian era, or basically the world before 1900. After that, our last 3 weeks will focus on from 1900 to the modern time. So our first look at disability is really very different than what you may have seen around you, or things that you may see going on, because disability was very different before the 1900s due to medicine. There was much more disabilities out there, but they weren't as severe. Yet those minor disabilities were in many cases more devastating than the physical disabilities we see today. For example, before the 1700s, eyeglasses weren't invented. Can you imagine? Most of you that are watching this video are watching it with eyeglasses on, myself included. Can you imagine going around and without your eyeglasses? What would the world look like to you? How would survival be in a world where everything is so blurry that you really can't see people in front of you? So people with bad eyesight were often severely disabled. In a world before antibiotics, an injury like a broken arm or broken leg could have been devastating and very disabling. In the world before modern medicine, children were born at home, often with a midwife. So difficult births were extremely common. And in fact, difficult births to this day are one of the #1 causes of lifelong disabilities. And I'm referring, of course, to cerebral palsy, which was devastating to many people before the 1900s. Before 1950, polio was a big factor as well. And polio, as well as scarlet fever and meningitis were very severely disabling diseases. Syphilis, something now that we can cure with a round of antibiotics, usually killed while bringing on, as the end result of bringing on a very debilitating, disabling condition. Rickets, something which many experts believe Tiny Tim suffered from in Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, was another common issue that we don't see today. Because, of course, we can just give a child vitamins and you won't have vitamin C deficiencies. So as you can see, the world before the 1900s was one of an incredibly difficult time. Without modern medicine, the smallest condition can really cause a major disability. What you're going to be looking at this week is you're going to be reading the pre-Victorian looks of disability, and we're focusing, on just a few this week. Physical disabilities, developmental disabilities, or cognitive disabilities. And then next week, you'll be reading about the sensory, blindness, deafness, and mental illness. So when you're looking at physical disabilities before the age of medicine, many of what we now consider disabling conditions, such as paralysis, spina bifida, neuromuscular diseases, those diseases usually resulted in death conditions, I should say. Paralysis is, of course, one of the more common disabling conditions, but it's the result of accidents to the spine. Accidents to the spine were not survivable before the age of modern medicine, mostly because of being able to catheterize and handle bowel regimens weren't invented. So therefore, most people who had no control of their urinary functions or their bowel functions usually passed away. So for that time period, a disabling condition would probably be one that would involve limping. For example, a broken leg, which was incorrectly set due to the fact that doctors, if there were even such a thing, didn't have x-rays to properly set a leg. So those were very disabling. It was a very harsh lifestyle. Food was always a problem. You couldn't go to your local supermarket to pick up oranges. So most of the time, those that were in poverty ended up suffering from rickets and other conditions. So as you can see, a lot of those type of conditions happened, and they were very difficult to deal with. Wheelchairs weren't invented until the 1800s. So people that couldn't walk were often forced to crawl, or they were put on something similar to a wheelbarrow and pushed back and forth. Social perception of disability was even rougher. In many cases, supernatural causes were attributed. So, for example, if a child of a rough birth was born, the child may look normal at first, but then a couple months later, the signs of cerebral palsy will move in and the child will change. Those children were often considered changelings. This idea that someone, gypsies, demons, whoever, came in and switched your perfectly healthy baby with this demonic child. This is where witchcraft is often brought in, and many midwives were accused of witchcraft due to cerebral palsy. Many gypsies, if they were nearby, were also often accused. So again, supernatural entities were attributed to this condition. There was also this idea that disabilities were signs from God or the gods, for good and for poor. They could be a sign that your military was going to lose, or they could be a sign that you were going to win. They were often interpreted after the fact. For this class, I want you to kind of look through the readings, read carefully. I will have a lecture written down each week as well as a video lecture for you. Your one assignment is going to be, each week, is going to be a reading journal where you give me a multi-paragraph, at least 500-word reaction to your readings. What did you think about the readings? I will also have discussion questions for you to look at, and there may be other journal questions involved. You will have 3 papers. Your first paper is due the end of next week. And, that paper is going to focus on disabilities before the 1900s. Your second paper, by the way, the first paper will be at least 1,250 words with 3 sources. Your second paper, again, 1,250 words with 3 sources, will be focusing on a specific disability. you will choose a disability you want to research and find out about. The third paper is about the social perceptions of disability after the 1900s. And you can choose from a multitude of issues, and that also will be 1,250 words with resources. You will also probably get at least one paper that I will choose for you to do a peer review with. All papers will be handed in through Turnitin. Yes, I do check for plagiarism. I'm very careful about that, so I will go over your paper very carefully. If I feel that you accidentally plagiarized, or even if you plagiarized on purpose, you will get one reprieve where you can rewrite the paper with a deduction. Second plagiarism incident will result in a failure of the course. If you have any questions about the course or the readings or anything at all, feel free to email me or text me. You can text me at 335-9063. That number's on your syllabus. Or you can call me at that number. The best way to reach me is really texting, or actually email's the best way. I will respond to your phone call, email, or text within 24 hours. Each week, our weekly folder will have things added to it. So if you look at week 2 now, it will not look the same as it will next week. So make sure each week you look at your folder, do all the work that's listed, click on all the links, and read the materials. If you have any questions, again, please contact me. We look forward to a great semester. I will post another video next week. I hope everyone enjoys the course and that you learned a little more about the largest minority. 45 million Americans have some type of disabling condition. So we will look further into that, and eventually at the end of the semester, when we look at the modern era, we'll look at the ADA and education and the more modern issues as well. All right? Have a good semester.